Hey, so my son and I, we bought a couple of these Honda Recon 250s. They're really great ATVs. We love them. These things are the beast. I mean, they go through just about everything. But you can only get them in two-wheel drive. So after talking to my son and I thought, you know, we've been in through water with these things and been up some serious crazy hills with them, and they do really well. But what if we were to ever get in a sticky situation since we don't have four-wheel drive? Maybe it'd be a good idea to put a couple winches on these. So I did some online research because we weren't really sure. We went to Honda and they told us to use a bunch of stuff, and it was hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I mean, they wanted like $200 and almost $300 just for supposedly just for the plate alone. It was a total ripoff, and they wanted thousands of dollars for the winch, and they want like $500 to put it in. It was just ridiculous. It was extremely definitely wasn't cost effective. And it didn't seem right. I talked to one of the dealership salesmen, and he said, no, that's not even true. You can't even mount that on this particular bike. He recommended an aftermarket product. So we looked and did some research, and what I found was a lot of people, there's not a lot out there, but a few of the people recommended the Superwinch. And because what's neat about Superwinch, they make a couple different sizes. So you can see here, this is a 2,500 pound winch, and that's the smallest of their series. That's probably going to be the one we're going to use. Anything more than that on this size bike would just be overkill. What's really nice about Superwinch is not only do they have like the different sizes or whatever, but if you want to come back here and see, they've got everything color coded. So it's a lot easier to be able to install this thing because everything's color coded. They've got instructions that are all based on just putting things based on the colors. So the electronics is going to be really easy and simple to install, and you're not going to need to have a whole lot of electronic knowledge to be able to do that. Another thing I really like about Superwinch is when you go on their website, they have a tool on there that you can look up what mounting plate you're going to need based on your particular model and brand. But this is what the actual plate looks like, and it's notched out here for the electronics because it's going to butt in this way, and we're going to show you that here in a second. Another great thing I like about Superwinch compared to some of the other models is you can get it with the synthetic rope on there. So if you're going to go do a lot of water play, like so far my son and I have been through a few creeks and things, and we really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun kind of splashing around with these things. You're going to get a lot of water up in there, and to me, I think the synthetic rope version, because you're not, I mean, again, it's only 2,500 pound. You're not going to be pulling huge vehicles and things of that nature. The bike doesn't weigh a whole lot, so you can get away with a synthetic rope, I think, on this. And then there's a lot less maintenance on that than there would be to have to dry off the like a metal cable and things of that nature. So that's what we're going to go for. So I already removed some of these parts on the other bike that we're working on. This is also a Honda 250. This is my son Jake's, and I already removed this plate, but I wanted to show it to you. This is the front piece right here that you're going to need to remove first. And so it's got screw here and a screw in here, and it's just the Allen wrench size. That's all you really need to do, other than if you want to come down here and loosen up these just to get this piece out. This is really all that holds it in. And because you're going to put the little deal up in the front here where the cable comes out, you're either going to need to cut this plastic to do it or just remove this top piece. And it's a nice metal rack underneath here, so there's really no reason to have this. This is more decorative, to be honest with you. It's this bottom skid plate that's kind of nice, though. I'm going to keep this on in case we come up upon a rock or something like that. It'll help skim over that instead of ruin the metal underneath. Another thing is to get that plate that you just saw to fit in, here's underneath. So now that plate is going to mount right here on these two angular tubes straight across like this. But as you can see here, this electrical cable right here that goes up into the two pieces here, this is going to have to be rerouted because the plate comes up and it has that notch, as you could see that I showed you. But the problem is this has to be moved out of the way, or it doesn't slide up enough. See how my hand is kind of bumping up against like that? All right, so one of the things that we learned The instructions for the plate says to put the plate in first, and then put the winch on after the plate's installed. But one of the things we could see from measuring it out and everything is that these little bolts here are going to be inaccessible to be able to mount up from the plate into the actual winch itself. You're not going to have enough space, so you're going to have to mount this to the plate and then slide it in there first. The problem with that is getting these bolts in. Obviously you can see by me doing this, they're not going to go in on their own after the fact. So you have to get those in first. Then we're going to slide this in and kind of drop it down into those brackets. So we'll see how that goes, but that's basically the only way to go. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of space in there. It is a little bit cramped. Anything larger than this 2500 unit that they make is definitely not going to fit. Okay, so we found out something in doing this that we had to make a slight modification. It's no big deal, but we want to show it to you because you're not going to be able to get it in there if you don't. So this is the winch in place. We haven't actually bolted it down, but you can see I got the first bracket here in place, and then this bracket will slide up here, and then it'll bolt in right here as well. But if you see the module and you notice, oh wait a minute, that seems a little different than the last time we saw it, and that's because we had to turn it upside down. So the piece, the the actual circuit board is down here, but it's all sealed and everything's fine. And then the electronic connections are actually up here. Which in doing this, it actually is a better way to do it because it gets the cables completely out of the way. And if you're in water and you're bringing up water into here and splashing around, you're not getting water because you would have to get into water all the way up to these to get water up into those electricals. So that's kind of nice. So that means if you're splashing around, you have even less of a chance of having any problems. But I wanted to show you that we had to kind of do this just to make sure that it was actually going to fit. This is as far down as this bolt will go, and you're going to have to bring that bracket all the way to the forward. And it's a tight fit. You can see it's close to here, but it's not touching. And if I push this down to where it's actually going to be and get it into place, it actually comes off of that piece. So you're fine. And if I show you the other side, you'll see equally. This is what it looks like on the other side now. And again, I have the bolt pattern in here, so it's not been tightened up, it's just loose, but it gives you an idea. See how it's close in here, but I can get a finger in there, and then after I bring this down and it gets bolted into place, because I bring this bracket up and it gets pushed down, now there's even more space. So if you don't turn that electrical module upside down, it's not going to fit. And even with that electrical module upside down, it'll touch it a little bit, but barely. Certainly not enough to make any problems. And but I can tell you it's a very, very tight fit. All right, so we finished up the mounting after figuring out that we had to get these rear bolts in first, slid down, because as you can see, there's just not enough space to slide those in after the deal gets on there. So you're going to have to kind of put those on there with the winch already mounted to the plate. In the instructions for the plate, it says to put the plate in, mount it all in, and then stick the winch in. The problem is the bolts, and you can't see this, but the bolts to mount the winch to the plate are underneath here, underneath this bar, and it comes really, really close to this bar, so you're not even going to be able to get in there with a tool. It's just too tight, too many problems. So you saw in the little previous clip here, we inserted these first, and then tightened down the plate to the winch, and then slid it in here. And as you bring it in here, you can just kind of slide that bolt down into this first little bracket, and then have this bracket just laying there. These are as forward as they can go, so that's where your spacing is. And now you see now I have some spacing here. It's hard to tell in the video, but I have some spacing here. This can easily free spool. It doesn't touch this at all. Not a problem. You can see that the electronic piece just barely touches over here, right here, but it's not a big deal, and it's on with those little rubber bands, so there's a little bit of play there that it can be moved around, so it's not going to create any damage. It doesn't appear to be. And if you come over here, you can kind of take a look. You can see where I have this. Now that it's put forward, you can see I can easily get a finger space in here, even more than a finger space, between this and the back of the headlight piece. This is as far, you can see how much I bolted it down. You can see this is about as much as I could get out of it, and then the clamps start to bend, and you don't want to do too much of that. You don't want to squeeze the tube as well. Here it even says that in the instructions, don't cram it down so tight you're doing that. Then you're not going to get a very good fit. So again, you can see in there it's a very tight fit. That's the electronic panel right here, and this is the where the plugins go, and this is the electronic sealed panel down here. And again, because it's on a little rubberized thing, there's a little bit of play in there, so it's good to go. Okay, so the first thing that you need to put on is the solenoid, and you can see they have like the little tab here and the little tab here for mounting, and they say that you need to have it close to the battery. And for those of you who own one and you've seen it, you know the battery's right underneath the seat here. Well, right behind the battery is the little compartment here from the tail light, so you can just pull that down. And in the back of this thing, if you can see in there, I've mounted 2 little screws into the plastic, and that'll coincide with these little pieces right here and right here. And you can have that mounted in there, and that's plenty of room to do your wiring and to come through. And then if you see on this side, I'll bring it over here. You can see it on this side, the little screws barely poke through here and barely poke through here. And I'll just put a little dot of hot glue on those to keep them from backing out. And since they're in plastic plus the hot glue, they shouldn't go anywhere. You can opt to use a little bolt and a screw and kind of tighten it off with something, whatever suits your fancy. But you gotta mount that thing somewhere. It needs to be out of the way where it's not going to get all splashed and wet. And this engine or the battery compartment is just not large enough, because you're also going to need to put this other piece here. This is the relay that goes between the solenoid you just put in and the battery, and then the case that goes in it to keep it protected and to keep it keep anything from grounding off on it. And you just don't have enough room in the battery case to do that, to put both of those in there. So this, because it's sealed, will go in the battery case, and then the other one, like I said, I've been able to find a little spot to put it in there, and you can see the little black piece up at the top and then the plastic piece at the bottom. I chose to put it into the plastic green part so that it's well in there with plenty enough room at the top there to do my electronics and still get it in there. So I wouldn't recommend cutting into that black part, because it's going to be too high up unless you turn it upside down, I guess. But at any rate, that back area there usually doesn't get too wet or doesn't get too splashed by anything for the most part, from what I found, so it should be safe up in there.
One of the things I like about the Superwinch is that they give you an option of a remote control, in and out system, or a handlebar system. And they give you the switch that you can attach on the handlebar, and then you would click that in and you would attach it. Or they would give you this, like on some already come with it, and then you just and then it operates it, and then, but like other models don't do that, so, and this does, and I like that. You can choose what you want.
Well, the next phase is you have to decide whether you're going to use the handlebar mounted toggle switch that Jake was telling you about, or the remote control version, which has, I think Jake showed it to you earlier, it actually has a handle with the switch on it and then a very long cable. If you're going to use that one, which is the one we decided to use, it's right over here.
Yeah, there it is.
We opted to use this one for a variety of reasons. You can choose whatever you want. I could, I mean, I'm sure you can come up with your own ideas of which one is better. But we decided this one's better because you can operate this on the bike, but you can also, with this long extension cord, operate it off the bike. So we thought this would be a cleaner way to do it. And easier if you didn't want to be on the bike for some reason while you're operating the winch. This gives you a longer ability to do it. The only downside we can think of for this is that you're going to have to find a place on the bike to store it, obviously. It can be stored in the back compartment that we're going to mount that solenoid. Or my son has like a saddle bag that goes across the tank here. Really nice bag. It would cost him $12. And this can easily fit down into that bag, and then it's out of the way. Put it in a Ziploc baggie or whatever if you think it might get wet. So at any rate, if you want to come over here with the camera, Jake, and you can see this, what it requires is you have to find a place to mount this thing, and there's a variety of different options, a variety of different places. I opted to put it on this little flat surface right here, if you can see that. And to do that, you have to use, if you can see this, it's a 1-inch tool head. For boring out holes. Now this is typically one that you would use for wood, but it cuts through this plastic pretty well. Just make sure you push things away out of the way so that when you're busting in there, you're not cutting into the clutch or the choke cable right here. There's not a whole lot on the other side of this thing. So anyways, we cut it through with it with the 1-inch drill bit there for making holes. And as you can see, I already put the wires in there, and then it's just going to go flush right up in there. Okay, it comes, the backing of this thing is kind of rubberized, and it's just going to go right up in there. And then you just take like a pencil or a magic marker and get your 2 holes there, and it comes with the 2 mounting screws, and it'll go in right there. And that gives it a nice flush professional look instead of cutting up other places or trying to jimmy rig something to put it on the handlebars and it ends up not looking good. So that's where we're at. So that would be the next step before we move on to wiring the rest of the unit. All right, so after installing the mount point here for the remote control, you can see the end right here, and that's just going to go straight in here. You just line up the plug and put that in. But the first thing you're going to need to do after you mount this is you're going to need to find the positive on the ignition here. When you turn the key over to positive, the live wire that comes off of that positive but is not live when the key is turned off, that positive ignition wire is going to go and connect up to the red wire on the wire that comes off of the unit here. You're going to have 2 wires that come off of this unit if you choose to use this one. One's a red wire, and then one is this more thicker solid black wire. So as you can see here, I've already spliced that in. The one you're going to want to pick, because this might take you a while, it's going to be difficult for you to find. You can see there's 4 wires that come off of this ignition. Okay, I've pulled them out to make it easy for you to see. There's the ignition itself right there. The wires go down in, and I pulled them up through the side here just so you can kind of see them easily. Honda's great because they give you plugins, so you can just easily plug this out, put a new ignition in if you needed to, if you wanted to get new, like a new key or whatever. So you're going to get 4 wires, and you can see them here. There's a solid green, a solid black, a solid red, and then there's a black and white one. Okay, this solid black is what you want to splice into, and you're going to put the red wire that comes with that comes off of this connection. You want to take the red wire and you're going to splice that into the black wire here, and then plug this back in down below. And I'll show you here in a second where it plugs in. All right, this is on this side of the bike here. You can see the tire and where we put in the winch. And if you can kind of see over here, I've already got it disconnected. Okay, if you see these, this right here, you got this little green wire right here, and it just goes to the connection right there. I've already pulled it off, and that's all. Really simple. And then this little piece goes in and out of here. So this little connector right there, and it's located right here on the side of the bike. Easy to get to. You can see the 3 colors going into the 3 colors going right up into this one, and you can see the green coming off and then snapping up into there. That's where you're going to reconnect it after the splice is made, and that's where you're going to pull it out, and then you can just bring it up this way, up through the top where I had it, and I showed you just a little bit earlier. So it's a pretty simple thing. It's just a matter of splicing that solid black wire off and splicing in the red wire from the connector for the remote control. So start there before you get started on anything else after you've mounted the remote control mounting point here. Okay, so we've completed the mounting of this, and we did the electronics on it and butted it up. We plugged it back in underneath. So it was time to do all the other electronical connections before we put power to it. So down here on the side where the electronic tabs are, this is the color coding I'm talking about. So they give you a yellow wire, and very simple, it goes to the yellow mount on the end of the this side of the motor, and they give you a blue cable, obviously, for you can see the little blue tab there. Very simple. And then I just wired that back. You can see a little bit, but I just wired that back. So let's take a look in the back, and you can see where this goes. Those wires and the wires that we had from the remote control mount. So this is the tail light. It's been dropped down. We're going to mount this solenoid to the back here. I showed you that earlier. We already have the screws in place. You can see them here and here. And it'll mount, screw into these little brackets right here. So if you lift this up like this, you'll be able to see. So this the black wire here and the green wire are what was from the remote control handle mounting plate that we drilled in for the front. So the red wire on that goes up in the front where we showed you earlier, and the black and the green come back here, and that's where they go. You can see in the middle there's a jumper, and it goes up to the top here. So this is what I'm talking about with the color coding. Makes it very simple. That's why I really like this particular brand. Your blue comes in off the motor, and there's the blue, so you know it goes there. And the yellow comes in off the other side from the motor, and it has a little tap, you know it goes right there. And the red, we're going to put a red, it comes with a red wire. You put the red wire there, and then you see the black tab there, so you're going to have a black wire here. So this black wire is going to be fed, I'm going to feed that wire back through the through that wall right there. There's a couple little spots where I can kind of shimmy it through where you see the red or the yellow wire coming through, and that's going to go on the negative side of the battery. Now the red wire here is actually going to be connected up to a circuit breaker, and I'll show you the little circuit breaker right here. It comes in a little package, and then it comes with a little plastic cover, I believe, to keep it from touching anything inside the battery compartment. So that'll go up in the battery compartment. This red goes to that circuit breaker. Off the circuit breaker goes another red wire that they give you, just a little small one like this, perfect size. It goes then from the circuit breaker to the positive side of the battery, and then we're going to be ready to spark this thing up. So it's simple as that. It does take a little while to kind of shim your wires through to get them to the rear here, and where you put them is totally up to you. You can kind of move them around. They give you lots and lots of length on these wires. If you see over here, I have a little extra. So consider that when you're putting these in. You might want to coil a little bit up in the front and clip it in the front, because they give you lots of little tie downs for that. But just be conscious of when you run your wires through, you try to avoid this side of the bike, because this side of the bike is where your main heat source is, because that's the pipe, obviously. So I tried to keep it up high in here, and then loop the blue around so it wasn't going down on the side here right above the pipe, because we don't want that to get melted or cause any heat drain. So everything is going through that. And then back in, they give you plenty of little peepholes and things to put things through on the bike. So it's an easy process. It's just time consuming to get all these things done. So we're gonna finish up this thing here. We're gonna put on that circuit breaker, and then we'll show you that, and then get the bike lit up and see how we did. Okay, so this red wire here comes from the back. I've already slapped it up together and put everything back in. And pushed it back into the back, and you can see the little screw right there, and the other one's kind of hidden, but I'm going to put a little blob of hot glue on that to keep it in. So the red wire comes back in off of the solenoid, and that goes onto this breaker here, and you put that at one end. The end that has the little plus, you put the short piece, because that's going to be the one that goes onto the positive right here of the deal, of the battery. And they give you this little piece here, so we're going to put that, basically that's going to go right inside this to kind of protect it. It's just going to go up in like that, and then you're going to put this here. Gives you a couple of screws to tap it down, so it kind of protects it, so it can lay inside your battery compartment without, because it's obviously it's metal, as you can see, and you don't want that getting on anything, causing any kind of a short. So we're going to put that together. We're going to lay that in there. I'm going to put the black as it comes out of from the solenoid. That's going to go on our negative side. The other side from here is going to go on our positive side, and then we're going to start the bike up. Okay, so we just started up the bike, and we plugged in the handheld remote control there. Everything works just fine. It's doing good. So now we're going to connect up the. In this case, we didn't use metal cable. We're using the synthetic rope with like a little protector thing on it. And to do that, they give you, instead of the Fairlead, they give you this aluminum hose, and that's just going to bolt right onto the front here. I don't know how well that is. The lighting in here is not that great, but that's just going to bolt on the front here with some of the either there or up top closer here with some of the extra brackets that they gave you. Unfortunately, because that hose is made to be bolted on with this bolt here to their regular plate, if you were to use the regular plate, which in this case you can't use, that's what this is made for. And this is just this screw the bolt is just way too short. So what it is a 5/16-18. So I went to Home Depot and got ones that are just like it, same head, but they give you a 2-inch length, and that should be able to fit in there to be able to get this thing on. So we'll slap that thing on, we'll get the rope in place, and give you a shot at that after it's done. Alright, so we're all finished here with installing the winch. We finished up with putting on the Haas, the aluminum Haas, and so I added the stopper here. I highly recommend putting one of these on if you're going to use the synthetic cord with the Haas, because this is aluminum and it can be easily scratched up and marred by the metal of the hook. So you want to get something like this so it'll be rubber on here going in and not cause you any problems. Finished up putting the rest of the wrapping up the wire, putting it underneath the seat, got it all situated. So we're going to start it up and show you how it works, and pretty much we're done at that point. So Jake, if you want to go ahead and start it up, we'll test it out. So the remote control gives you an in and an out. Jake, you want to show them the switch?
Yeah. You got an in and an out.
Just an in and out switch.
Yeah. In, out, in. Yeah.
Goes pretty fast. It's pretty good. Go ahead and give it out, and we'll pull it out a little bit, and we'll bring it back in again.
Out. Okay.
Yep. This is about how fast it goes. All right, go ahead and stop. All right, I'm going to give it over to the side here, and we're going to guide it on. So go ahead and bring it in. Stop. A little bit, just a little bit, and it'll touch this end. There you go. That's it. So, that's all it took. This is the, if you want to shut it off, Jake.
Oh, okay.
This is the tools right here that I use. So if there's nothing that I use that's not inside here. Everything that I needed to do the job was in this type of a toolkit. So it's a pretty basic toolkit. You really don't need a lot to do it. You can see the inside here. You can reach in very easily and just toggle that, toggle the side here. That will give you to either free spool or it'll engage it. And it even gives you an arrow to tell you which one it is. Free spool one way versus engagement the other way. Real simple. We've turned the wheel, everything's in there. On this side here, you got your electronics, but it's actually up in there pretty well and hidden the way I was able to put it together. So you can turn the wheels and everything's fine. So now we have a 2,500 pound winch on the Honda Recon ES, two-wheel drive instead of four-wheel drive. So that gives us that extra, gives us an extra tool in case we get snagged up on something. And this is what it's going to look like when you're done.